Welcome back to the Big Ranch Show, the real home of progressives. Now I'm going to start off with a little update about Nex Benedict. Nex, of course, if you've watched the other two videos, you know Nex was murdered by three classmates. The Washington Police Department says that they're investigating it, but they're waiting for toxicology reports before they do any kind of arrest. I found that kind of weird. I do find that very weird. Those three students, we know for a fact, committed assault that day on February 7th. They should have been arrested for the assault, but they weren't. When Nex died the next day, they should have been arrested for at least manslaughter, on charges of manslaughter at least, at minimum, but they weren't. The fact is, the school didn't even call an ambulance. The school claims they didn't even know there was a fight. Yet one of their own teachers broke up the fight. As mentioned in the comments, teachers are a mandatory reporter of abuse. This teacher didn't report it to the administration. Yet, in the interview that I brought to you yesterday, the grandmother of Nex said that they had been informed that Nex was suspended for the next 2 weeks, but they didn't know there was a fight that occurred. We need justice for Nex. So we need to demand that the Owasso Police Department does their job, does their due diligence, and arrest the people that are at fault for this person's death. I believe Remember Nex should be a rallying cry for the LGBTQ community to fight back against the things that led to this poor child being attacked as they were. I believe it is time that we stand and fight for these kids. At the end of the day, I don't care what happens with me, but what I do care about are children. Children should have the ability to grow up and be happy and be themselves. Nex won't have that opportunity. So we have to fight even harder to prevent this from happening to another child. So for the big story of the day, we're going to talk about Alexander Smirnov. You may remember Mr. Smirnov, I don't know. But he was the key witness in the GOP impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden. Back before it was a legitimate inquiry, because that has to be voted on and they never voted on it. He made claims that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden were involved in some kind of big scam with Burisma, which was a big oil and gas company in Ukraine. Turns out almost everything he said was false. And the FBI had been tracking him for a bit. Back in 2023, he told the FBI that he had there were recordings of Hunter Biden making phone calls from Kiev, trying to, bribe funds, I guess, from the Ukraine or somebody, trying to, get money from somebody, right? By selling access to his father back in 2020. And beyond, right? That was his argument. It was all false. The FBI says they know it was false because Hunter Biden had never traveled to the Ukraine. Never. And so, that being the case, the FBI knew this guy was lying from the start. I'm kind of more angry that they knew he was lying from the start and didn't bother to let anyone know. Apparently, the story with Mr. Smirnov here is that he had been in contact with Russian spies or different heads of different entities within the Russian government that were feeding him lies, that were feeding him misinformation. And he was peddling these lies in the U.S. to mess with and screw up the U.S. 2024 elections. They were basically feeding him lies so he could, spread it, make it help with a disinformation campaign to smear Joe Biden so Donald Trump could be reelected president. People want to tell me that I'm full of crap, that the Democrats are the fascists. But Donald Trump is the one who is being helped by a fascist dictator in Russia. They're spreading a disinformation campaign using Americans to do this. According, though, the one thing that he was saying that may have been true, we don't know because it has not been verified, but the one thing is he was talking about how the Russians had infiltrated a hotel in Kiev that was making recordings of phone calls from certain American people, businessmen, politicians, and things like that, that they could use as blackmail to get them to peddle these in lies and spread disinformation to affect the outcome of U.S. elections. That's his claim. We don't know if that is true because everything else he has said has proven to be false. The judge didn't really mince words. He said that Mr. Smirnov was going to be released, but that Smirnov better not make a mockery of him, because the prosecution said that he has ties to high up Russian, spies and figureheads within the government that he could use to flee the U.S. So the judge made him surrender his two passports and said not to make a mockery of the judge. The thing is, though, these people, he'll find a way out of the country if he so sees fit, right? He will. But Mr. Smirnov here is just one of many people that have been either caught up in blackmail or otherwise just part of unwillingly and unwittingly being part of a greater disinformation campaign to disrupt U.S. elections. And I understand there's issues with Joe Biden. Right, I understand there are serious issues that we need to discuss about his health and things like that. But I can tell you now that he's better fit to be president than somebody who is getting help from the Russian government. But Mr. Smirnov here, his disinformation, his purposeful dissemination of misleading and false information about Joe Biden is still having effects. People still believe what he first said, even though it was a lie. Because a lot of people haven't heard that it was a lie. And so, what do we do? How do we fight back against disinformation? How do we fight back against these operations from foreign governments trying to dictate our elections? Let me know what you think in the comments on that, because I really don't know. I don't know what we do. I don't know what we can do, except continue to try to educate people on the facts. Today, on Twitter, I was told that I was a low information voter, that I just didn't know what I was talking about when I said that, when I discussed that Trump and the MAGA cult seemed to be a bit fascist, right? And they hit back at me saying, "No, the Democrats are the fascist." But are the Democrats the ones burning books and banning books? Are the Democrats the ones attacking marginalized communities? No, they're not. What I see the Democrats doing is pushing for better help for the poor, better education funding, free school lunches for children, books that are age appropriate in libraries, and overall defending the country against Russian and other foreign influences. Are Democrats perfect? No, far from it. Is Joe Biden the best president ever? No, no, he's not. But is he getting help to be help in his election campaign from Russia? No. As it's turned out, Joe Biden was not selling access to the White House through Hunter Biden. That was a lie. Hunter Biden was never caught on the phone selling access to his father from a hotel in Kiev. It never happened. Hunter Biden never went to Ukraine. It just is what it is, people. It just is what it is. The far right in this country have been invaded or somehow compromised by the government in Russia. I don't know if the Russian government has something on some of the people. I don't know if they're just buying into it because Russia supports the MAGA cult and the MAGA leader. Also, did you hear the new news? After Donald Trump was um, found guilty in his civil trial and forced to pay over $355 million to the state of New York and banned from being able to run a business in the state of New York for the next 3 years, a trucker started pushing this idea um, about boycotting taking loads of grocery, food, things like that, and fuel and things like that into the state of New York, especially New York City. He swore he had all these people that were going to join him, and then he realized that, wait, by not taking loads that were assigned to him from his trucking company, he would be fired. All of a sudden, he's backpedaled, and the trucker boycott of New York has already stopped before it ever started. It shows you how far people have gotten down in the rabbit hole of misinformation about Donald Trump. And it's not just the Russians. They're not the only ones spreading misinformation or faking information, posting bad information. They're just the main government entity that is doing it. But we have people that are so caught up in this MAGA thing that they don't understand what they're doing to the country. They don't understand that what they're reading is false. They don't understand that what Fox News is peddling is lies. The one thing I try to do here at the Big Ranch Show is post facts, the truth, based on the evidence that is given at the time. I try my best not to push, disinformation. When I post something that turns out to be wrong, I make corrections. When it's been brought to my attention that I've done something, posted something that was incorrect, I do my best to apologize for the mistake and tell my listeners very quickly that I had screwed up. If you've been a follower of the Big Rancho, for years now, you know that. And that's what drives me crazy about mainstream media. The mainstream media and Fox News, MSNBC, they all push one side or the other, one narrative or the other, right? And I'm not trying to push a narrative here. I'm trying to bring you the facts, the best facts that I can. And yes, I will get emotional from time to time. Like when somebody in my community is attacked. Sadly, this misinformation campaign doesn't just stop at our politics. This misinformation campaign that's kind of spearheaded by Russia, but you also have Americans that are, just gun ho about it, about non binary and trans people and drag queens. They can sit there and claim that their lies don't affect anybody, that they don't have any responsibility for what has happened to people. But trust me, misinformation kills. It just does. And people say, well, it's just words. Well, you know what words do? Words themselves don't hurt anybody. I've been called all sorts of words since I came out as trans. They don't bother me. Words don't bug me. What bugs me are the people that hear those words and take action off those words. I've been called some terrible things, and other people in my community have been called terrible things. You know, and unfortunately for some people in my community, they've come up dead because of those. So before you post something to Facebook or Twitter, ask yourself, is this possibly fake? Is this possibly a lie? And if you know that it's if you don't know for sure, don't post it or go look it up. I do that with a lot of memes when I'm on Facebook. Memes and news stories, I try to make sure they're from factual places before I bring them up here or I post them on Facebook. Anyways, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching my videos, and thank you to the people that have pushed that first video about Nex Benedict to where more people saw it. Thank you. I'm just so happy to know that bigger news sources and people with more influence that actually have influence have come across the story about Nex. Hopefully something will get done. The people I see covering it on TikTok and Twitter, the influencers there that are covering it spot on. And I don't think I have much more to say on the topic right now. But if I have more information about Nex and what happens with the case going forward that somebody else hasn't covered, then I'll bring up another story about it. Anyhow, y'all have a great day. I'll see you down the road. And stay safe out there.